where this about to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Logan JYA Drytron back at it again with a fresh new Drytron deck profile coming in hot post-Photon Hypernova. And this time, we are taking advantage of an expanded Ishizu card package in this particular build. I think you guys are really going to dig it. As you guys may be aware, I'm not a particular fan of the tier elements, so I haven't really got to leverage a bigger Ishizu card package in any of the decks that I really play. But that changes today with this particular build of Drytron, where we've jacked up the count of the Ishizu monsters to take advantage of the facts that they're fairies and use them as a counterplay against our opponent's cards. So I got to give a quick shout out to a bunch of people in the comments, as well as the people in the Drytron Facebook group who have been talking up the Ishizu Drytron builds, as well as Shu Ping and his testing lab, an absolutely legendary duelist. He needs no introduction. But this deck profile sure as heck does. We're going to go into the in-depth deck profile, and then I've got a few test hand replays to show you guys at the end. As always, I thrive off of your feedback, so please let me know in the comments down below other ways we can best prepare for the meta post-Photon Hypernova. Again, guys, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe. We're really trying to hit 10K subs this year. I'd love it if we can hit that goal, and each one of you guys hitting that sub button helps us get one step closer. But without further ado, let's dive into it. Alright guys, as you can see on the screen right now, this is my 50 card Ishizu Drytron build for post-Photon Hypernova. This is the draft that I'm really looking forward to giving a try, because it's going to be my way of actually integrating the Ishizu cards a little bit more into one of my core strategies. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go through the profile, and I'm going to explain some of the choices, and then we've got the test hands at the end that show you what the end board should look like while playing it out as safe as possible. Without further ado, let's dive into this, but I also want to flag for you guys, there's going to be a download link in the description, so you can download this list for yourself and give it a try on YuGiOh Pro, Nexus, Dueling Book, whichever means you want to use it on. You got you covered, brother. So without further ado, let's dive into things. Starting things off here, you can see we've got our usual Drytron lineup. This has been the ratio I've been employing as of late. We've got triple alpha, triple zeta, 1 delta, 1 gamma, and 1 beta. Beta male. It's still weird for me to be playing this card, but it does come up because we want to be returning names after they're banished off the bestials. Of course, if we already attempted their effect once, we can't use it again, but it does subsequently bring it back for follow-up. And outside of that, we are only playing the 1 Delta because we're playing Pot of Prosperity in this build, and the 1 of Gamma. Gamma is not as much of a playmaker on its own. That's why we really only wanted to max out the playmaker names. Moving on from there, we've got 1 copy of Diviner and 1 copy of Choju. So here's one thing. I mentioned this in one of my previous deck profiles, that a main concern is when the opponent's Ishizu monsters actually end up milling your normal summons or your combo pieces that you need. Well, as you can see, we have beefed up our own Ishizu card lineup in this build. So a cool thing about that is we can use our own Ishizu monsters to put back our playmakers if the need arises. I'm getting a little ahead of myself talking about this, but it's something really important that allows us to play one-ofs for Diviner and Choju. Now, of course, Choju is one of the most insane new cards that's going to be coming out of Photon Hypernova. You might have heard me talk about it in one of my previous videos, but this guy, when he's tribute summoned, you get to add a ritual monster as well as a ritual spell from deck to hand. It doesn't have to match like pre-prep, but you can use it to grab your Dawn of the Herald as well as your Herald of Perfection in an Alpha Zeta combo line that facilitates not only negates with your Perfection as well as your Dynamon lock with your Chaos Max. We displayed that in a previous video, and you're going to see it again played out even better than ever at the end of this video. But yes, Choju is a must in this particular build of Drytron when we are playing the Perfection package. Moving on, and in the same vein of that, we are playing both the Herald of the Green Light and the Herald of the Orange Light. The idea behind this is having those hard-drawn fairies in hand, as well as more fairies that we can search off of our Bentens to fuel your Perfection with negates, is a darn good thing. Now, seldom will you ever actually open up the Orange Light in a fairy to pitch to use as a counterplay on turn 0, but when it happens, it feels pretty darn good. Again, it sucks that the Herald of Orange Light died, at least in our eyes, for the sins of the Ishizu tier elements. It's a real shame that Konami took it away from us, and they couldn't have maybe, oh, I don't know, gone after the tier element cards directly. Regardless, I'm going to bury my gripes here, and I'm just going to continue on with the deck profile. We are playing the one green light as well as the one orange to complement. Now, like I said earlier, we've beefed up the Ishizu lineup in this build. It's not the biggest, most robust one you may see in other people's profiles who are trying out builds like this, but I think this ratio in particular works. We're doing 2 Medora, 2 Keldo, and then 1 Kelbeck. Now, here's the thing, right? If you have these in your hands, they're not serving much of a purpose when you're going first, because you want to be doing your usual Drytron combo lines, or you want to be setting up your Perfection or your Dynamon lock with your Chaos Max. However, when you're going second, normal summoning these can actually serve as an insanely good resource, whether you're swinging over your opponent's Flaunderee's barrier statue, or you're using it as a counterplay from your opponent's tier element monsters as they send them to the graveyard. You line up your own shufflers. It's a pretty cool thing. In that same light, when your opponent is milling your deck with their YuGiOh or their Kel deck, you are lining up your own shufflers to counter their plays. It's a pretty sneaky thing. If they know you're playing Drytron, they may not necessarily see the Midoriya or the Keldos coming, so you can really catch them off guard with the extended package. Now, mind you, I'm going to get a little ahead of myself here one more time, but as a backup plan where if we brick and we're only seeing either multiple copies of the Ishizu cards or one of them in a Prosperity and we don't dig into actual plays, in the extra deck, I do play the Baguska as a, if we bricked, here's a contingency plan type card. So something fun to keep in mind. Now, of course, if you are special summoning one of these cards via its effect, like if you're special summoning the Keldo, you lock yourself out of Drytron plays, obviously. So this is only in a worst case scenario situation, but you're not completely caught with your pants down. We stay ready with these things. So that is the expanded lineup here, the 2 Medora, the 2 Keldo, and the 1 Kelbeck. Of course, the other cool thing about the Kelbeck being that it can be a hand trap, or you can use it to mill out your cards and get your Drytron names live in grave, which isn't a terrible thing. So we have this expanded lineup. It's a fun thing to test out. Let me know how it works for you. And of course, all of them are fairies, which means we can pitch them for our Herald of Perfection and use them as negates. It's a really cool thing. And when we hard open them, we also can early search our Herald of Orange Light to defend our plays. And if we're playing against tier Ishizu, that means when we actually end up using the Orange Light, we're going to be lining up our own Shuffle Boys in the graveyard. It's a pretty strategic advantage. Moving on from there, of course, we got the Herald of Perfection. It's one of the mainstays of this deck, as well as our triple copies of Ben 10. The one darn thing Konami did right for us is bring this card back to 3. A little overdue in my opinion, but hey, I still appreciate them for it 100%. We got the 1 copy of Ida 10, which is mandatory for the Alpha Zeta line to facilitate a full combo ending on Perfection as well as the Dynamon lock. That's why we play the Ida 10. We also got the copy of Natasha for the steals. We've got up to 4 since we do play the Ida 10, and the Chaos Max, which is one of the most powerful locks that we're able to use with our Dynamon. For those of you who don't know, wait till you see the replays at the end. I'll explain a little further there. And now our spells. We got a crap ton of spells here. Again, we're playing 50 cards. We got the 1 Call By, the 1 Foolish, triple Cyber Emergency, double copies of Fafnir. I want to flag that the effect of Fafnir to lower levels is pretty relevant against the Kashtiras to lock them out of their rank 7 plays. So just keep that in mind. Triple copies of Drytron Nova, 2 copies of Medionis Drytron. Now here's the reason behind this, is if our Medionises are either getting shuffled out of our graveyard without our consent, they're banished off runic cards, we've got the extra copy to be ready with, as well as if we open with the pre-prep play and we don't have the Dawn of the Herald left in our deck to search, but we've already searched a Medionis off of our Zeta, we can actually search the 2nd copy of Medionis off of our Choji while going through our combo line, and I do demonstrate that later as well. So yes, we are playing 2 copies of Medionis Drytron. You could definitely cut this to 1 if you wanted to, but that is the reasoning why I'm playing 2. We also have the 1 copy of Dawn of the Herald, of course. Obviously, it goes with our pre-preparation of rights package. Again, this card is the greatest insurance policy you can have to protect against bestials when you're going first, to protect against your opponent's tier element cards like Havness when you're going first. You line up an early Perfection. It is the greatest safety net you could ever have. Following that up, of course, we're playing triple copies of Preparation of Rights, because prep plus pre-prep is a FTK, and then we've got triple copies of Dark Ruler No More. So this is an interesting thing, right? So this can lock out the opponent Kashtira player's Macro Cosmos effect, but it does not deal with the Zone Locker. So the Zone Locker is still a little bit of an issue that I'm struggling to deal with. Of course, we can do Book of Eclipse or the Swords of Concealing Light as means of outing it. Of course, you can see those are absent in my build right now. I'm not necessarily sure where I want to put those, but if you guys have better ideas on how to deal with that deck, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. And then we're finally rounding things off with the triple copies of Pot of Prosperity, because this can dig you into your combo plays. In a 50 card list like this, it doesn't hurt to have to find that missing piece. It also can find your Dark Ruler No More if you're in a tough situation where you need to shut off your opponent's board. So I think in a build like this, having the Prosperity is a really good thing. Let's move on to the side deck here. We've got triple copies of the Lava Golem. This is a goated card going second against the Kashatiras because it deals with those big problems, the zone lockage as well as the Macro Cosmos effect. Lava Golem is going to be chef's kiss, super nice going into post-Photon Hypernova. And I've also got triple Lancia that can work against the Kashatiras, but also deals with those Flaunderies, because if they don't see a hit, there's still going to be a big problem with those budget players jacking out those Flaunderies. So we try and stay ready. We play the Lancias. It's also in archetypal. It's searchable. When we tribute to Ben 10, we can search a Lancia. Most of us know that. Now we're getting into some of the newer stuff here. This is a bit of a change for me. I've put the talents in the side for this build, and I've complemented it with triple tactic tasking as well as evenly matched. Now, for those of you who tuned in for the Logan JYA Grim YuGiOh collaboration tournament we hosted very recently, you might have seen that tasking into evenly was a play that came up not once but twice throughout that tournament as we were watching. So I was like, huh, that's not a bad play. Maybe I want to borrow that for the side deck of this particular build. So I thought that made a lot of sense. The tasking can net you into evenly or Dark Ruler No More or your pre-preparation of rights. It's actually really cool how this card can supplement whether you're going first or second and get you into some of those most diabolical cards in your deck, as well as the triple tactics talents itself. It can also get you into this, but this is another good card to bring in when you know you're going first. You can actually take out your Dark Rulers and put in your triple tactics talents as a reactive card in case you are hit with hand traps. You can take a look at your opponent's hand, or maybe you're going to be able to draw two. It's a pretty decent thing. So we are trying these out in the side deck. Let me know what you guys think about this side. I'm not completely sold on it. Pretty happy to make some changes, so I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. But the extra deck I am feeling pretty confident about, and let me explain to you why. We got the one Entis and one Herald. These are our Diviner targets. I really don't feel comfortable ever dropping them. We've got the one Beatrice, the one Divine Arsenal Zeus, of course, our Downer Magician to go along with it, 2 copies of Moy Beta, and then the one Baguska, as I mentioned earlier, in case we're bricking on the Ishizu cards. Now I've got 2 copies of Dynamond. Of my buddy Abistius, aka CJ, made the point to me of any card that could be perceived as a choke point in our extra deck, we want to play a multiple copy of. And Dynamond is a great card going first or second, whether we're trying to set up a Chaos Lock if we aren't able to close out the game, or trying to take advantage of its effect of shuffling back removal. It's a good card to have as a 2 of in case the Kashatiras see it in our extra deck and are trying to go after it. So if we only played the 1, it'd be a very easy way for them to take out a good chunk of our plays. So that is why we are putting in the second copy of the Dynamond in this particular build. And of course, we've still got the Boral Sword, the Unicorn, the IP Masquerena, the Sprite Elf, and for those of you who are unaware, Sprite Elf has awesome interactions with Diviner in this deck, because if we are able to end on the Elf, not only do we get the targeting protection, but we can bring back the Diviner on the opponent's turn, use it to send Entis, and that is an extra means of spot removal. There are times where your Diviner may get hand trapped, and then you end up linking it off to make the Elf, and then having that serve as an interruption in a suboptimal situation. And then, of course, finally, I'm wrapping things up with the Relinquished Anima. No need for Linkaribo here. As you can see, we've got the Lava Golems locked and loaded in the side, and we can punish the players who disrespect this card. When our Kashatir opponent is a fool and they summon their thing in a poor zone that happens to point to Anima, we are going to punish them for it. We stay ready with it, so that's why the Anima's in there. Anyway, guys, that is the super duper in-depth deck profile, but we're not done yet. I've got a few test hand replays I want to show to you guys, and without further ado, let's get into it. Alright guys, diving in with test hand number 1, I'm going to show you what the full combo looks like unabated with a realistic test hand here, and how to play it out as safe as possible. So in this situation, as you can see, I end up starting things off with the Pot of Prosperity, and the idea here is we want to line up a live orange light prior to putting a monster on the field, because that is going to defend us from our opponent's bestial plays. And you'll see that's why I really strive to hit a Ben 10 off of this Pot of Prosperity, because that means we're going to be 100% safe as we go through our plays, at least mostly safe. We go Zeta effect, pitch off the Ben 10, grab the Medionis, and now the Ben 10 can line up the orange light. Since we have this Ishizu monster in hand serving as our fairy, we have the live negate, so that means we can stop at least one of our opponent's bestial monsters. Now, of course, the next thing kind of proceeds as planned. I end up going for the Nova for the Gamma, and I'm actually going to use the Moy Beta here to Foolish Burial our Alpha Thuban, and the Medionis effect will bring back Ben 10, Alpha effect engrave, tribute off Ben 10, searching a follow-up copy of Ben 10 as well as Choji. Now I'll reduce to add back that Medionis and tribute summon the Choji to lock and load our Dawn of the Herald and our Herald of Perfection. We can lock and load that right now. Now we've got plenty of negates. The remainder of our plays are free and safe from interruption, which means we can line up our Beatrice, and this is the important thing here, guys. If you didn't see the last video, you want to pay attention here. This is how we enable the Chaos Max lock. We actually overlay for the Beatrice with our Choju and the Ida 10, right? The Ida 10 lets us add back the Medionis, and then we use the Beatrice's effect to send the Chaos Max. This is how we get it in rotation, so we're able to do the monster effect lock on our opponent's turn. Proceeding on, we'll use our Gamma now, summon back, get those free bodies, use Ben 10, get a search for Diviner, and then we can ritual summon off. There's no reason to go for the second Moy Beta here, because it's not really going to serve a purpose, so we just use the names on field. Summon back the Chaos Max, now it's been properly ritual summoned, we'll be able to bring it back off Dynamon later, and then we're going to link the Chaos Max and that Moy Beta who was left on field into the Dynamon. Now we pass turn to our opponent. During their draw phase, we can use Dynamon's effect, and then tag it in for the Chaos Max and tribute itself. And then, of course, we also can use our Beatrice to lock and load another Shuffler. So that means we've got Medora engrave, we've got the Keldo in hand, which we will inevitably end up pitching for our Perfection if need be, as well as 2 other fairies to fuel our Perfection for a grand total of 3 Omni Negates. Our opponent cannot use monster effects at all whatsoever for the entire turn, and we've got 2 Ishizu Shufflers on lock. That is a pretty darn good combo, if I do say so myself. Now let's take a look at 2 more test hands and bring this video to a close. Alright guys, for this next replay, I'm going to show you how the play changes a little bit when you actually open up with the pre-preparation of rights. So here, I start off with it as our first play to deck thin, and then I'm going to knock off a Pot of Prosperity. Some good banish cards include the Baguska, the Zeus package, as well as the IP and the Unicorn. So I end up not hitting a Ben 10 here, but I do get a Zeta, so I lock and load that, and then we're going to end up using our Emergency to add Alpha, and we are still going to be able to establish our Perfection before really running into any major bestial choke points. Now, they can chain their bestial here to knock out the Zeta, but it doesn't absolutely obliterate us here. We're still able to play even if they were to do that. So here I end up grabbing the Ben 10 back off the Dawn, as well as the Choji for the Ben 10 search. We go Zeta effect, and now we line up the orange light a little bit early here. And you may be wondering, why did we go for the Choji if we already opened up the pre-prep? Well, I'm going to show you right here. We can actually use it to search that extra copy of Medionis that's in our deck, as well as any other ritual monster, so we get another free Ben 10 or an Ida 10. Now the rest of the play is going to look very similar to what we did earlier here. Going to line up things as best as we can, go for the Chaos Max, go for the Dynamond, and end up wrapping up the board the same exact way that we did on the last combo, completely locking our opponent out of monster effects and ending on 3 Omni Negates. So that's how the play changes, just a little bit in case you open up with the pre-prep. It's just as insane as always, only a little bit safer. Now let's get into our last replay. Alright guys, we saved the best for last. I'm going to show you the full Bust-A-Nut combo played out as safe as possible. So of course we start off with the prep, get us the Ben 10, and then grab ourselves an Alpha. Alpha pitch Ben 10 here before putting any monsters on field is going to let us line up that early orange light, which means one bestial is not going to be able to do us in. Then we go Zeta, tribute Ben 10. Ben 10 gets Choji, go into Moy Beta, send Gamma, line up the tribute summon for the Choji, sacking over Ben 10, which gives us Dawn, Perfection, and Ben 10 once again. Summon the Perfection, keep locking and loading those negates, and proceed to go through the full combo. Again, the Ida 10 is essential here, because we're going to need to ritual summon one more time after we do this. We take a dump, send our Chaos Max, go for the Gamma effect, tribute the Ben's Head in hand, get another free search, Diviner for guaranteed follow-up, go for the second copy of Moy Beta here because it will actually serve a purpose. After we properly summon our Chaos Max and use it to link off into the Dynamond, we can use that extra copy of Nova that we opened up with to put an extender onto the field, which is going to give us access to IP Masquerena. And the cool thing about ending on IP in this situation is that after we resolve our Dynamond effect, we can use this IP on our opponent's turn to use either the Chaos Max or the Beatrice or whatever cards we leave on field to either go into a Sprite Elf or another copy of Dynamond. Say we use up all of our Perfection negates, we can actually use IP and Perfection to go into the second copy of Dynamond and use it for the shuffle interruption on the opponent's turn. So the IP does serve a purpose on the end board as a pretty nice accessory. Of course, the Beatrice can dump a shuffler on the opponent's turn and lock and load us for full success. And we've got those nice 3 Omni negates. But say we got hit with a Dark Ruler or a Droplets, we do still have the orange light ready to go as another form of interruption, or the green light if it's a bit more applicable in the matchup. Say we're up against something like Runic. Guys, I love this list. I think it's a really fun take. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Help us out on the road to 10K. And I will see you beautiful people in our next video. Logan JY signing off. Have a great day. I'll see you guys later. Peace.
心の隙間埋める